What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Stand Up Guys Podcast, episode 172. I'm your host, incomparable Zach Jones, joined as always by, AJ, we're back to the classic intro. The Ninth Wonder, Chocolate Thunder, eating that poon, never stopping too soon, the clit licking, never quitting, having fun making, female genitalia run, the phenomenal one, AJ Sin.
What's up, everybody?
Got to clean that one up a little bit. AJ, what's been going on in your neck of the woods this week?
Not much, man. The weather out here is so bad. I've been trying to get out and exercise every day, but it's wild. I went for a jog in the rain today. It was just my clothes were soaked.
Yeah, Portland in the wintertime, man. It's a lot of rain.
Yeah.
Can't escape it. I gotta say, being from Montana, I do miss the snow every now and again. But
Really?
then, yeah, I mean, it's cool to have around a little bit, but then in Montana, you get too much of it. You got it for months on end, and that's too much. So I don't know. There's got to be a spot where you can go and just have a happy in between. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's been kind of fairly consistent in March. It snows somewhat, maybe for a week or so.
Yeah, we've gotten a few skips of snow here. Every once in a while you'll get one, but I don't know.
Yeah.
When you're from a place that has snow, it doesn't feel like Christmas time.
Right.
When there's no snow. It feels weird.
Right.
AJ, the only thing I really watched of any consequences, I finished up that Justified City Primeval show that I was talking about last week.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good show. If you're a fan of the original Justified, I would say totally check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they're planning on doing another mini series. This ends conclusively, but they did tack a little thing on the last episode where they're like, oh, we could do some more stuff if people want it, that kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, I just like that character. I like that show. I think Timothy Olyphant's a good actor, and he's just good in those kind of roles. But AJ, I thought what we could do for today is we're nearing the end of 2023, and so I found a list, and I'm sure this list is very subject to change because of the actor strike and all that stuff. But I got a list of not every movie coming out next year, but a lot of the big ones and the ones we would be, more likely to see in a theater, that sort of thing. So I thought we could go through this list of most anticipated movies, and I'll just, take your temperature on these, see if there's something you're excited about, something you could care less about, and something you think would be worth reviewing on the show or not. And we'll see what we got.
Sounds good.
All right. So January, where traditionally where movies go to suck, is where they dump them in January. We got a movie I don't care anything about, a new Mean Girls movie, of all things.
Yeah. How many are there? There's one so far?
Well, there was one. The original they really released theatrically. I want to say they probably made some straight to streaming ones. I don't know for sure, but I think they did.
And this third one's going to be just like new people probably all over again.
I heard such good things about the first one. And so I eventually did watch it, and I was like, it's fine, but I don't understand why there's people that love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't understand that sometimes, yeah.
But apparently the original movie inspired a stage show, a play. And so that in turn, inspired this version, which I remember I watched some movie in the theaters, and they had a trailer for this, and I think they were singing. So I don't know if it's maybe partly a musical as well this time around.
Okay.
But man, it says the original came out in 2004. That seems man, that's 20 years.
No, that's right. That was a long time ago. Lindsay Lohan was how old was she in that movie? 17?
Yeah, probably something like that.
And you've seen her now. She's a grown-ass woman.
Well, she aged quickly because of all the drugs and alcohol, I think. I always thought maybe she'd have some sort of comeback, career-wise.
Yeah,
but I haven't seen her forever.
Surgery or something on her face that just I just wish these celebrities would just leave their faces alone. They're already in Hollywood. You know you look good. Why are you doing that to yourself?
So many of them do it though. There's just so much
Yeah,
pressure, and so many of them cave. But yeah, most of the times it's for worse results.
yeah.
Man, have you seen recent photos of Madonna? She looks
Oh
terrible.
man, yeah,
It's so sad when you see these like people that could have just aged gracefully and still been pretty hot, but they just like,
yeah.
ugh.
I mean, look at what's her name?
Helen Mirren.
No, no, no. She was in that movie with Ryan Reynolds, that college movie, Tara Reid, Sharknado, Tara Reid.
Oh yeah, she got a bunch of work done too, didn't she?
Yeah, and she was so young and already so beautiful, and she did this in the prime of her life. She got surgery, and she just completely altered her look. It was not for the better.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy sometimes. I
Yeah.
never understood like the collagen lip injections just because I don't know. I guess I don't look at women with big lips and I'm like, oh yeah, that does it for me. I'm just like I don't care at all, you know?
I mean, I get to some extent, like you don't want like no lips, like you want some, something there, but I've seen it to where like people do it really well and then they keep going and they keep going and it just goes overboard and it's like you had it and then you lost it.
Like Meg Ryan, she used to be pretty cute, but then she did that and like looks weird, you know?
Yeah.
Man, AJ, we talked about this movie. I think last episode. I had no idea. Maybe it probably said on the trailer, but I had no idea it was coming out this soon. February 14th. Valentine's Day. Madam Web
Oh
is going to
wow.
hit. Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't realize it was coming out that soon. It says Sony Spider Man movie franchise without Spider Man has had highs. They say Venom, which I haven't seen the Venom movies, but I'm guessing they're not highs, and lows. Morbius. I can agree with that one.
Well,
But
I think
Madam,
for their universe, Venom is high. Like that's
that's
as high
probably
as it
true.
gets.
You're
Yeah.
really voting or grading on a curve with that
Yeah.
one. Um, but at Madam Web, which stars Dakota Johnson as a clairvoyant Spidey side character, might be worth sticking around for, even if Peter Parker himself never shows up. Sydney Sweeney, Adam Scott, and Zosiah Mamet co-star. Um, I can't imagine this movie being good. I
No.
just, boy. Okay, March 1st. Now I am excited about this one. Dune Part 2. So the first installment's day and date release on HBO Max initially put this sequel into question, but WB thankfully saw fit to give Denis Villeneuve the green light. Part 2 sees big names like Florence Pugh, Léa Seydoux, Austin Butler, and Christopher Walken join the cast as Villeneuve tells the second half of Frank Herbert's epic sci-fi novel. You know, I did like the first one. I think it was maybe there was a lot of setup in it though, so I'm kind of hoping this one has a little more action in it.
Yeah, yeah. The first one, I kind of like lost interest in the first one, like halfway through. I just really got bored. A
I
lot of
think there's some
setup.
really cool visuals in it though.
Yeah, the visuals are great, absolutely.
Yeah,
But just the story it was a lot of setup. But yeah, I hope the story goes somewhere, it picks up a lot, and we get some intrigue. I hope it gets better.
I think I'm a little more into it just because Denis Villeneuve directed Blade Runner 2049, which
Hmm.
is one of my favorite movies of like the last 10 years. Just like really
Yeah, I've heard good
incredible.
things.
Man, it's
Hmm.
so good. It's so good. Man, this article, it actually, for whatever reason, blanked out the name of this next movie, but it's another Kung Fu Panda movie. One of these
Oh, okay.
kids franchises that just keeps going. I don't know if this is three, four, five. I don't know how many of these things they've made, but
Right.
they made another one that comes out March 8th. I did watch the first one like ages ago when it first came out, and I was like, this is fine. I never watched any of the others, but like I don't know. To me, it doesn't speak to me. It's not one of those animated things that speaks to me as an adult. And as an adult, I think it's just like I don't know, fun for kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you watch any of those movies?
Yeah, I thought Kung Fu Panda was okay. It was like typical formula.
Right. Um. Okay. Well, we did review the first one of these on the show. So March 29th, Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire,
Oh
the
wow.
sequel to the last Ghostbusters movie. We don't have a lot of confirmed details about this sequel, except that director Jason Reitman has been replaced by Gil Keenan. who directed Monster House and Poltergeist 2015. Now, I've never seen a Poltergeist movie, but I know that remake is supposed to be terrible, so that doesn't get me excited.
No.
Apparently, he co-wrote Ghostbusters Afterlife, which was the last movie. We also know that stars Carrie Coon, McKenna Grace, Finn Wolfhard, and Paul Rudd are returning, joined by names like Kumail Nanjiani and Patton Oswalt. And lastly, we also know that the film setting will indeed be New York and the firehouse from the original films, which was teased at the end of Afterlife. Ghostbusters is a weird franchise because you know, the first movies are great, and then they had that weird all-female one, which I wanted to be great but was terrible, and then there was this franchise, which I thought the first one was okay. I thought it was a weird direction to bring it into it's kind of young adult type of genre, when the first ones really were just an action comedy. So it's weird that they're trying new tones and stuff with it, but I'm on board for it. I'll probably give this a watch unless the reviews just come out and it's straight up terrible. But
I'll definitely give it a shot.
I would have been more excited, I think, if Jason Reitman, the director of the first one, was still on board for this one.
Yeah.
That's something you see with a lot of sequels where you're like, oh, the person that was, a big part of why you liked the first one isn't on the second one. And you're like, we'll see how it goes.
Exactly, yeah.
This next one is an original sci-fi movie called Mickey 17, directed by Bong Joon-ho, and it stars Robert Pattinson. It says, South Korean director Bong Joon-ho follows up his Academy Award-winning film Parasite with this adaptation of the sci-fi novel Mickey 7. I don't know if it's Mickey 7 or 17 because the title says 17, but here it says 7. Anyway, Robert Pattinson stars as a disposable employee, one whose body is regenerated without previous memories intact every time he dies, on a mission to colonize a distant world. I mean, that might be okay, but have you ever seen the movie Moon with Sam Rockwell?
No.
I haven't seen that movie. I only saw it once, but I want to say the plot of that movie was kind of similar. He found out he was an employee working on the moon, and then all of a sudden a clone of his shows up, and I think the thing was he found out that he was this disposable clone that was going to die, and then the other guy was going to take over, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And so this sounds similar to that. Did you watch Parasite? It was the one picture of the year. I thought that was an okay movie. Again, it's one of those things where I watched it once. I don't think it's anything I'd ever watch again, but I was like, yeah, this is okay.
Yeah, it was fun that one time.
Oh, man. I just saw a trailer for this movie, too, and I'm like, man, they're still making these. So April 12th, 2024, Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire.
What? How are they still fighting? They squashed everything. They dealt with it.
Well, I think it doesn't say versus Kong. It says X Kong. I think they're teaming up in this one, and that's the sense I got from watching the trailer as well. Right. It's I don't know, they're buddies now and they're teaming up. I don't understand it. Whatever gene makes you care about giant monsters fighting, I was not given it. I could care less about these movies.
Oh, there are people who have that. That's a whole thing. I don't know why, but it's so popular,
especially in Japan. But
yeah.
And from what I understand, every once in a while, the Japanese, they have it's some sort of weird rights issues where the Japanese filmmakers can still make Godzilla movies, but then these guys can too. And I know there's a Godzilla movie out right now from Japan called Godzilla -1 or something, and I think it's actually getting pretty good reviews. People are digging it.
I think
I'm
there's
guessing
a boner people have for giant things destroying buildings, just kaijus or whatever, just leveling cities.
It's so boring to me though when it's just destruction and you don't care. It's just, I don't know, mindless destruction. Right. But anyway, it says the two greatest kaiju of all time are back for round 2 in the follow-up to the Monster vs. 2021 showdown. However, the synopsis suggests that they might be allies from the start rather than enemies this time around, as Godzilla and Kong will face a colossal, undiscovered threat hidden within our world. Dan Stevens has been cast as the lead of the film, alongside returning GVK Godzilla vs. Kong actors Rebecca Hall, Brian Tyree Henry, and Kaylee Hoddle. Adam Wingard, who directed the previous bout, will be behind the camera for this one too. So yeah, man, I just cannot get excited about these movies.
Yeah.
I remember during COVID, we actually did review Godzilla vs. Kong just because it was on the HBO app. And yeah, I thought that was terrible. It was. I remember us thinking it was very stupid. Like all the human characters were just making like nonsensical decisions, and then it was just like mindless violence and its destruction, and it was just like I don't get it.
Yeah, it didn't seem like there's a lot of thought put into the plot of that movie.
Man, this year's like a relationship movie. April 26, 2024, Challengers, starring Zendaya and two guys in some sort of love triangle. Yeah. Doesn't
I hate those kinds of movies.
Yeah, it doesn't interest me at all. I recently saw the trailer for this movie, and like I didn't love the trailer, but it's directed by David Leitch, who has done a lot of action movies that I have liked, so I might give it a shot. The Fall Guy, starring Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. David Leitch, a former stuntman who previously helmed John Wick, Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, and Hobbs and Shaw. Well, you can take Hobbs and Shaw maybe off his resume. Is tackling a film adaptation of the 80s TV show about a stuntman who moonlights as a bounty hunter. Sounds right up his alley. Ryan Gosling will play lead against Emily Blunt. Did you see the trailer for this one? I know it played at the last movie I saw in theaters.
No, I didn't see the trailer for it. It does seem like a typical Ryan Gosling type movie, though, like these days.
Yeah, he has been.
I'm thinking of Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Gosling, all right.
He's been also doing, sillier role. I haven't seen Barbie yet, but his role as Ken.
Right. Yeah.
He seems like he's doing movies where he can
like
get.
In that movie,
yeah,
right?
It seems like he's doing movies where he can do a little more comedy, be a little sillier, and this one's like that too.
Okay.
Well, speaking of Ryan Reynolds, May 17th, 2024, If, a movie called If, directed by John Krasinski. John Krasinski and Ryan Reynolds, both of whom also star in the film, developed this fantasy comedy, also written by Krasinski, about a young girl who learns she has the ability to see imaginary friends, hence the title If, that have been abandoned. Reynolds and Krasinski are joined by massive voice cast, presumably for the imaginary friends, that includes Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Matt Damon, Steve Carell, Emily Blunt, Awkwafina, and more. We'll see. It's probably going to be one of those comedies that's like fine, but like I'm guessing it's not something I'm going to see a trailer for and be like, "Ooh, I gotta see that one in theaters." You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Ooh, AJ. Now this one, this actually might be my most anticipated movie of next year, and I just saw the trailer for it. So May 24th, 2024, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Anya Taylor-Joy will play a younger version of the war-rig driving badass Imperator Furiosa in this prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, one of the best films of the century so far. George Miller will naturally direct once more, and Chris Hemsworth will co-star in the movie, which tells the tale of Furiosa's kidnapping and her rise through Immortan Joe's ranks. Now, AJ, to this day, I've never seen any of the original 3 Mad Max movies. Maybe I should go back and watch those. But I thought Mad Max Fury Road was fantastic. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember liking it. I do have questions about, though. I mean, I feel like women in that post-apocalyptic society wouldn't really have a chance to, like, develop themselves. Considering how, what was his name? Mortis Joe treated his concubines.
I mean, that's the whole thing about... That's one thing about the Mad Max world is it's just so bleak. Things almost always go from worse to worse,
Yeah.
But that's the thing that's compelling, is just seeing like how's this person going to going to survive and rise up the ranks of this just like terrible society,
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know, I just love Mad Max Fury Road so much. So it's such a different movie, like, and it's beautiful to look at too, man. He knows how to shoot. Like, he makes the desert look interesting, which is hard to do. So yeah, I just love Mad Max Fury Road, and like the stunts in it are like insane. Like, it's one of those movies you watch and you're like, I don't know how like 30 stuntman didn't die filming this movie. You know what I mean? It's
Also,
pretty.
I thought the storyline wasn't too bad considering like it's a pretty straightforward story, but they added enough like stuff to it to where it like fleshed out and it made sense. It was fun to watch.
That's another crazy thing about it. It's literally like they drive from point A to point B,
Yeah.
and then find out, oh, we got to turn around and go back to point A. That's
Right.
all the really is, like, plot wise, but somehow like it's insanely good.
Yeah.
May 24th, 2024, animated movie I don't care about, Garfield, starring Chris Pratt. After Chris Pratt voiced Mario, he went where there are no more animated characters to conquer. He wept for there was no more animated characters to conquer. Just kidding. He'll be voicing everybody's favorite lasagna-loving, Monday-hating cat, Garfield, in a new movie adaptation of the long-running comic strip. Samuel L. Jackson will voice Vic, Garfield's father. I mean, they had to give him. That seems like a weird choice. Like, oh, we're gonna give Garfield a father and make this a father-son romp.
That is weird. Yeah, you think of John as Garfield's father / owner. Yeah.
Man, I did read Garfield strips as a kid, and like I did watch the animated series they had when we were kids, which, in all honesty, wasn't very good, but I still watched it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not excited for this at all.
No.
It is weird that they are getting Chris Pratt to voice so many things, like the Lego movies. He was a voice, and then
they're
like
really pushing him. Like his agent is doing something amazing over there. Like he's getting him work.
Now Mario and Garfield.
Yeah,
and they'll make like probably at least 2, if not a million more Mario movies.
Oh yeah.
Next, this is a movie I probably won't watch in theaters, but I probably will eventually catch it on streaming because I watched the other 3. May 24th, 2024, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Caesar, the chimpanzee who led the apes to world domination, died at the end of 2017's War for the Planet of the Apes. Man, they're just spoiling right here in the description.
Yeah,
the third film in the reboot trilogy of the classic sci-fi franchise. However, there's more monkey business to be had. Wes Ball, who helmed the Maze Runner films, directs the 4th film in the series, which takes place many years after the events of War. I gotta say, like, I've never watched those Maze Runner films, but I don't think they have the highest reputation, so that director probably doesn't get me super excited for this, but we'll see. Have you watched any of those movies?
No.
Planet of the Apes movies?
No.
I never watched any of the old ones just because I was like, I know that people love them, but when you just see, like, obviously guys in ape suits, you're like, boy, I don't know, this is a tough watch.
Exactly.
But these ones with like the newer CGI and stuff, I checked them out, and like, I don't think they're must watches, but they're entertaining enough. Okay, AJ, this one actually intrigues me. I wish it had a different director, but June 7th, 2024, Ballerina, the first spin-off film of the John Wick universe, stars Ana de Armas as one of the female assassins trained by the Ruska Roma, the criminal organization headed by Angelica Houston's director, and which was glimpsed in John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. Details are thin so far, but we know it will be another revenge tale, and we know that it will be set specifically between the events of Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, so Keanu Reeves and his Continental cohorts will also appear. So this all sounds good, and I'm man, Ana de Armas, man, she's such a babe. I would watch her in almost anything.
Yeah, she's really pretty. Yeah.
It's directed by Len Wiseman, and I should have pulled up his IMDb because I know I've heard his name on things, but I don't think he's ever directed anything of like real like noted quality. I think he's just kind
What's
of
his
one of those
name?
Len Wiseman. I think
I've
he's
never
just
heard of
kind of one of those middle of the road action, directors.
him. Okay.
But my thinking is like the direction helped the John Wick movies, but really, if they got the same like stunt team that worked on the John Wick movies, I have to imagine this will have some pretty good action in it. So like, I am still kind of excited to see it.
I know that guy, the Chad Staholic or whatever his name. Like he was like the what's his name?
Stahelski.
Stahelski. He was like the director of the first one. I think he had involvement in the next ones too.
Yeah, I believe him and David Leitch, who we mentioned as the director of the Fall Guy. I think they kind of co-directed the first John Wick, and
Hmm.
then the other ones were Chad Stahelski by himself.
Okay.
And then the spinoff is Len Wiseman. But man, I'm hopeful. I like the John Wick universe, and I'm glad. Well, I'm glad that it's a with this film is like a thing that they're doing spinoffs, because I think there's a lot of cool thing they could do with that world.
I haven't like been too interested in watching spin-offs of it. I like Keanu. I just like him. He draws people. He's like a charismatic person. So like so far, I've been watching all the ones that he's in, and if they get another one that's going to have him in it, I'm interested. So
I mean, he's great, but my thinking is like the world they set up with all like the different like assassin guilds and things, and
yeah.
and just all the different factions, and like even in John Wick 4, I remember there was kind of that subplot with the Japanese guy and his daughter that we were
Uh-huh.
thinking like, oh, like they could make a movie with her now, and I would
Yeah.
totally be up for that. So like, as long like to me that like, yes, Keanu's like a selling point, but like the great action is the other selling point. Just like I think the choreography on those movies is better than almost every other action franchise.
Hmm.
Like that's what makes them stick out to me. Is just like
That's
the
true. Yeah.
insane
Choreography
choreography.
is
So
amazing.
so
The fight
like
choreography is unlike anything I've ever seen.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I mean, I hope there's good writing and stuff too, but the really the action is what
I
carries those
mean, it's
movies.
it's it's up there with Jackie Chan. Like it's not the same, but it's up there. Like that's high quality content right there.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Oh man, another one of these. June 14th, 2024. Bad Boys 4.
Oh
Um,
boy,
if
they're
the
gonna be 60.
if the third film in the Bad Boys franchise had gotten a different title, then this fourth installment could have easily been named Bad Boys for Life. That's true. They weren't really planning, because they called the Bad Boys 3 Bad Boys for Life. I mean, I was like,
Yeah,
come on, you should have held out.
exactly. Yeah, should have been more optimistic.
But we will see detectives Mike Lowry and Marcus Burnett reunite for another explosive action adventure. Um, yeah, I don't care. I saw the first Bad Boys like forever ago, um, and I was like, it's fine once, and then somehow I watched the second one, which felt like it was about 5 hours long, and I just thought it was terrible. Both of those
Yeah,
ones are Michael Bay movies, but the second one is even more egregious. Michael Bay.
yeah.
I didn't watch the third one, which I don't think is a Michael Bay movie, probably directed by the same guys that are doing this one. But yeah, it's just a franchise that I don't personally care about.
I never watched any of them.
You're not missing much, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, this one here, I will watch when it hits streaming. I probably won't go and see it in theaters, but June 14th, 2024, Inside Out 2. Um, I think we've talked about this on the show, but I think Inside Out is definitely up there as one of my favorite Disney Pixar movies. I think it's really good. So I'm glad to see that they're using that concept again.
Hmm.
The wonderful Pixar film Inside Out showed us what things are like inside of an emotional young girl's head. How do you raise the stakes for the sequel? Go inside a teenager's head, of course. Inside Out 2 will revisit Riley now that she's in college, and it will fittingly introduce a host of new emotions. There are reports that, aside from Amy Poehler, not all the original voice cast, whose ranks included Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling, will return for the sequel. It's kind of weird. You would think of being just a voice role, they could have got all those people back.
Yeah, for
But
sure. And you don't have to film at the same time or anything. Oh.
Next, this one confuses me. So June 28th, 2024, A Quiet Place Day 1. With the thrilling exception of the second movie's opening scene, the action in A Quiet Place franchise has taken place after the super hearing, super deadly aliens have already invaded and destroyed society as we know it. As the title here implies, the third film in the series will show the first days of the alien attack, well before anybody knows what's going on or what to expect from these monsters. And it will be directed by Michael Sarnowski, who gave us one of Nicolas Cage's best performances ever in 2021's Pig. While most of the cast announced so far are new, we will see the return of Jaimin Hansu's character from Part 2. So I saw the first Quiet Place movie, which I thought was, a fine little horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch the second one, but I remember in seeing the trailer for the second one, it looked like they were revisiting like how it all started. So like I didn't know if that was just like a quick flashback in the second movie, rather than it like being a prequel, because this definitely seems like a prequel. I don't know. Did you see A Quiet Place 2?
No.
Did you see the first one?
No, I haven't seen either one.
Because you like horror movies, right?
Yeah, but I've been laying off lately. Getting older, you just get more like, I don't know. It's just you don't need more negativity in your life when you're older.
So yeah, the concept is like these aliens invade, and they're basically blind, but they got super duper hearing. So like everybody's got to try to be as silent as possible. The weird thing is though, like one of the big plot points of the first movie is Emily Blunt's character is pregnant, and like eventually she has to have the baby. But I'm like, did they have just like really, like first of all, if you're in that apocalyptic place, like be careful and don't have kids. But then I'm like, were they just having like super quiet sex? Like, how was that baby conceived?
Yeah, and I mean, I get that's post-apocalyptic. Maybe you don't have protection everywhere, but I would think that would be a priority before having sex to make sure you don't get pregnant.
It's a decent movie though, if you're ever in the mood for a horror flick again.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard good things.
Man, AJ, we've already mentioned Garfield and Kung Fu Panda and like these animated franchises I don't care about at all. Well, here's one more. July 3rd, 2024, Despicable Me 4. Don't forget which master the Minions serve. Coming 2 years after the last installment in the franchise, the spin-off Minions, The Rise of Gru, Despicable Me is going back to the mainline series. Though there are no specific details at this point about the trouble Gru and the Minions will get up to this time around. And who the hell cares? I mean, apparently somebody does, because those movies make gobs of money, but boy, oh boy.
Yeah. I think the last movie they made got memed really hard. Like people were throwing coins at the screen and like making like a crazy scene at the theaters. Like people were dressing up in suits. It was a weird thing. It was
like Minion cosplay and stuff.
Yeah.
So weird. I have like an aunt on Facebook who's like really into Minions, and like she's constantly posting like Minions memes and stuff, and I'm like, oh boy, you got to find something else.
Does she have kids?
Yeah, kids that are older than me.
Oh man.
Boy, oh boy, it's not the summer movie season, AJ. If you don't have sequels that you're like, who asked for this?
Yeah.
So July 19th, 2024, Twisters, the long-awaited sequel to Twister.
Oh my gosh, finally.
Originally planned as a remake of the 1996 disaster movie Twister, Twisters eventually took form as a sequel, though it's being called a new chapter, and it isn't clear if it'll have any connection to its predecessor. Minari director Lee Isaac Chung makes the leap from indie drama to summer blockbuster with Daisy Edgar Jones, Glenn Powell, and Anthony Ramos set to star. Man, I remember like as a kid in the 90s, like Twister did seem like it was a big thing. But man, if you look at the effects of that movie now, it kind of looks like crap,
For sure.
Yeah. So I'm sure the effects will be better, but like, does anybody care?
No.
It's just I don't know. It seems like one of those concept worn out like for a single movie, fine, but like I just don't see people caring about this. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll be a big hit. Okay, AJ, probably given that most of the superhero movies coming out next year are the in the Sony verse. I
Hmm.
think this is my most anticipated superhero movie. So July 26, 2024, Deadpool 3.
Okay.
The Merc with a Mouth is back, and so is Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. The first Deadpool movie since Disney bought Fox will certainly be a sight to behold, as the Ryan Reynolds-led franchise is beloved for its R-rated humor. How that will blend with the MCU's decidedly PG-13 tone is a mystery, as is how and why Jackman is unsheathing Wolverine's claws after the acclaimed swan song that was Logan. Now, they don't mention it in this article, but I think Disney has said in the past that this movie will be R rated
Yeah, I think
rather
so.
than PG 13. So it's just kind of weird because I think this movie is going to have the, like, probably the most connections to the X Men.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, uh, kind of weird that Deadpool 3 is going to be that movie that, maybe bridges to the X Men the most.
But at the same time, like, are you talking about like the fact that they're having R rating for this movie with the X Men, or are you just saying that Deadpool is just weird? That's like
Not the
connecting to the
R.
X Men.
Yeah, just that Deadpool's like been this comedy series, and now it seems like it's going to be
I was
like,
surprised by that too. Yeah, I
yeah,
was surprised that that's the one they introduced this whole like they connect the whole multiverse to like in Deadpool. That's strange to me. And I mean, is it going to be on Disney Plus at some point, like rated R? Are they going to do that?
I think so because like when Disney brought those Netflix like Daredevil
Oh,
and
okay,
and those
yeah.
shows Punisher over, I remember
Hmm.
there being a thing where they're like you can now set uh, your app so like the kids can't access those
Okay.
shows. So like I think Disney is finally being more open to having somewhat more adult material on the Disney app.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know exactly what Disney's going to do because they do own, I think, pretty much Folie now, Hulu as well. So I guess they could just throw it on Hulu. But
True.
I've also heard that they might eventually combine Hulu and Disney kind of into one app. And I think in
Hmm.
other countries besides the US, it's kind of already that way.
Okay.
So yeah, I think they're just gonna have to like be like, yeah, we have both adult material and younger material now.
Hmm.
Um, this next one I'm not interested at all, especially because I've heard like it's been on the like this movie was shot like I think a couple years ago and it's just been sitting on the shelf. So
Hmm.
August 9th, 2024, Borderlands. Get ready for some outer space shenanigans as Eli Roth, another thing, I've never been a big Eli Roth fan, takes the
Hmm.
helm of this adaptation of the popular and wacky video game series. The cast includes big names like Kate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, and Jack Black, and the film was written by Craig Mazin, who recently helped make a hit out of another acclaimed video game franchise, The Last of Us. Um, I mean, to be fair, I've never played the Borderland games because I'm not really into first person shooters.
Hmm.
But I don't know. Like I said, like I've seen some Eli Roth movies. They've never really done it for me. And like I this movie, like I said, I think it was filmed a couple years ago and it's just kind of been sitting on the shelf. So it makes you go like, oh, why aren't they releasing this? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I
And
played the
so
Borderlands games, and like they're good, but I don't know how you can make a movie out of them. Like you have to make a series out of them. I just don't see how they can make a movie.
yeah, like the only Borderlands related thing I have played is when Telltale was making games, they had that Telltale Tales from the Borderlands game, which was
Hmm.
very good,
Yeah.
but I think kind of very separate from what's actually going on in the mainline Borderlands game. So yeah, I don't really know. I don't have a lot of faith in this movie though.
Right.
Um, August 16th, 2024. untitled alien movie. Um, the new film comes from Don't Breathe director Fede Alvarez and will follow a group of young people on a distant world who find themselves in a confrontation with the most terrifying life form in the universe. Uh, Man, aliens, like I've seen some of the aliens movies, but I've never been like won over by them. They're just I don't know.
Yeah,
Have you
no,
have you seen them?
I've seen a little bit of them. I've seen breakdowns and stuff. They just don't intrigue me. They're too 80s. They're just I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I saw them. Maybe if I would have saw them when I was younger, I would be more into them. I didn't see them till like a few years ago, and I'm just like I don't see what the big deal is. I know some people love them. I don't get it really.
I think the thing is, like, with certain movies that were like big hits in the 80s and 70s, they've been remade over and over again into like modern movies that are a little bit, maybe we're used to the modern ones. And we go back and see the original that created it all, that, nobody could have imagined making this movie before that movie. And we're
Right.
like, well, we've seen it and we've seen it done differently. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of the tricky things about making sequels to like originals that you know are are that old is sometimes that happens.
Because I heard with the director of, there was an episode of Star Trek where they loop the day over and over again, but with minor changes, like Groundhog's Day kind of.
Oh yeah, right.
But there was an episode of Star Trek where people they were so confused by the concept of like what is going on. This episode keeps restarting, like something's wrong with the way they're airing it. So they called the local station. They were like, "Hey, there's something wrong with the way you're airing this episode. It keeps restarting over and over again." And like nobody knew about the concept, and it was just so weird to people at first that once Star Trek did it, then other people were able to do it and like actually do it, like, to where people could understand the concept more and get into it. But at first it's something nobody's ever even heard of or thought of. It's just so it can break your brain a little bit.
That is true. And now it's a concept like we're very used to, like the Groundhog's Day concept. Even like the Madam
Yeah,
Web trailer had that Groundhog's Day thing
yeah.
where she
And
keeps
Loki
like
had it.
Loki had it. Yes, yeah. So people use it all the time.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that Happy Death Day horror movie, but it used it
Oh yeah,
as well.
that's got it.
So yeah. But yeah, I imagine the first time somebody experienced that, it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Although it is very weird to be like, oh, I'm so confused. I'm actually going to call the TV station rather than just like keep watching, and think, oh, maybe I'll figure this out. I go, no, I'm going to call up the TV station. Something's wrong. I got to call them.
I have to step away just for a second. Let me grab some keys. I have to hand them to a family member. I'll be right back. Sorry about this.
No worries. I'll just keep rambling here to the audience. Let's see here. August 30th, 2024. Kraven the Hunter. Originally set to appear sometime in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man franchise before it was discontinued by Sony, the classic Spidey villain will make the jump to the big screen. The film will be directed by J.C. Chandor, who directed All Is Lost and Triple Frontier, with Aaron Taylor Johnson, who portrayed Pietro Maximoff Quicksilver in Avengers Age of Ultron, set to play the character. Now, folks, I can't imagine anyone being excited for this, but if you are, please, for the love of God, comment down below and tell me why. Because I don't know, my thing is, even if you're a huge fan of Kraven from the comics and other media, like, these Sony movies have such a bad track record. Like, I just can't feature people being excited about this. But hey, to each their own. I mean, between this and Madam Web, I would maybe go Kraven the Hunter. But I remember like seeing the trailer for this, and I believe he gets his superpowers from like a lion, like bleeding on him or something.
Wait, is this Kraven the Hunter?
Yes. So
he gets superpowers from a lion bleeding on him? I think that's like the rumor of how AIDS started with monkeys.
It's been several months since I watched that first trailer they put out, but I want to say like a lion. He gets in a fight with a lion or something, and somehow their blood mixes, and he gets powers from it, and it's so
Oh my god, that's
stupid.
insane. That's like Morbius's bat thing, kind of, right?
Which I haven't read like a ton of Kraven comics, but I don't like. I think in like for the most part in the comics, he's just like this, buff guy who's really good at hunting. But maybe at some point he probably did get powers, but I don't know.
Spider-Man is so nerfed, and even the comics. Like, how is he fighting a fat guy and a buff guy? Like, he's Spider-Man. He should be crushing these people. I know he holds back, but that much to where he could he could pop their heads with one soft punch of his. Like, I don't get it.
But Kraven's going to catch him in a net, and then he'll punch. No, but I was just saying, like, I'm surprised if anybody can get excited for these Sony movies, like, good on you, but I don't know how. They have such a bad track record. Although, look, to be fair, at some point I do need to watch the Venom movies. But
yeah, I'll watch those too. I mean, I heard they're okay.
Although
they don't really build to anything,
And even with those, like I heard a lot of people that liked the first one said the second one was terrible. So like even with people who are kind of into those, they already have diminishing returns.
Yeah.
September 6th, 2024, Beetlejuice 2. Tim Burton reteams with Michael Keaton to return to one of his early iconic characters in this sequel to 1988's Beetlejuice. Winona Ryder and Catherine O'Hara are also both on board to reprise their characters Lydia and Delia Dietz, while Jenna Ortega joins the cast as Lydia's daughter. I gotta admit, AJ, for me, Beetlejuice is a total blind spot. Like, it was one of those movies that was, like, I know in the zeitgeist when I was a kid, and I think when I was very young, I saw maybe a scene out of this movie, and I was just like, oh, that seems like something weird that I'm not into. And I never actually watched the movie. So, like, I can't really say too much about it when never seeing the film. Have you seen the original?
Several times. My sister loves the movie. I'm okay with it, We've showed it to my nephews. It's a family, we watch it. It's in the family.
Are you excited for a sequel?
I'm curious. I do wonder, like, because I don't know who they had play Beetlejuice the first one. I think it was
Michael Keaton, right?
Michael Keaton, yeah. So I don't know if they're going to replace him because
no,
I doubt they're going to get Michael Keaton to.
No, it says Tim Burton reteams with Michael Keaton. So
wow,
they're in it.
If he can keep up the same energy he had like however many years ago when he played the original, I mean, that seems strange to me that he'd be able to channel that same kind of performance at this age. But if he can do something even close to that, or even just like a good take on it, whatever it is, I'd be I'm going to watch it for sure.
Maybe sometime this year or next year before it comes out, I'll finally have to like break down and watch Beetlejuice.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Speaking of franchises, just keep going. Although this is I guess a little different for this franchise. So September 13th, 2024, Transformers 1, which I guess is going to be animated. The Transformer franchise returns to its roots with an animated prequel that explores the origins of the titular robot's homeworld of Cybertron and the rivalry between Optimus Prime and Megatron. It will be separate from the ongoing narrative of the live-action films, and it will be helmed by Toy Story 4 director Josh Cooley, with Chris Hemsworth as the voice of Optimus Prime and Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron.
Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime?
Apparently. Again, like, Transformers is one of those things that I just never got into at all as a kid. And, like, as an adult, when those movies started coming out, like, I already knew that I wasn't a fan of Michael Bay's style. So I never watched those. Yeah. And then people were like, a couple years ago, that Bumblebee movie came out, and they were like, "Oh, this one's actually good. It's not by Michael Bay." And I watched it, and I was like, "Eh." I wasn't impressed.
Mhm.
I don't know, man. It's not a property that speaks to me.
I think I've seen almost all the Transformers movies, not the Beast one, I think maybe, but yeah, they're not good. I'm not happy with watching them.
This one might be a mess, but I gotta say I am pretty intrigued by it, and I might actually see it in theaters. October 4th, 2024. Joker, Folie Deux. Um, Director Todd Phillips helms his follow up to the wildly successful R rated take on the iconic Batman villain that earned Joaquin Phoenix the Oscar for Best Actor. In Folie Deux, he'll be joined by Lady Gaga, who is playing his love interest, Harley Quinn, and the film will reportedly be a musical. Um, so I gotta say, with the first Joker, like in the lead up to it, I was like, this is gonna suck really
Mm,
bad. Like I really
yeah.
did not have any faith. My expectations were just really down. But then I watched the movie, and I gotta say, I actually quite liked the Joker.
Okay.
So it's not perfect, but I like it quite a bit. But that being said, like when they were tossing around doing a sequel, I was like, I really think should just be a one off, and maybe it should be. But I don't want to judge this movie like too much because, like I said, the first one was definitely above my expectations, and Joaquin Phoenix is great. Um, and I don't know if I've really seen Lady Gaga in any of her movies, but I think she's gotten fairly good reviews for some of her stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by it. What about you?
I mean, I never saw the first one, but I did hear interesting things, like kind of both sides. Like, people were on the fence a little bit from what I heard. But I mean, if it's good, then I'll go back and watch the first one too. Maybe.
I'm also not typically a fan of musicals, but um, this one intrigues me enough that I would still watch it just because it's in that universe. AJ, I have no context at all for this next one. Have You're a horror fan? Have you ever watched any of the Terrifier movies?
I've seen the reviews for it. It's about this Art the Clown. He just kind of haunts like random people, and eventually, I guess he kills them. But it's just about this clown that haunts people.
Okay. Well, apparently there's a third one, Terrifier 3, October 25th, 2024. We don't know much about the third installment of the cult favorite horror franchise Terrifier, but we do know that David Howard Thornton will return to play Art the Clown and that the film will be set on Christmas Eve. The budget is also reportedly much larger than the previous two films, so fans can look forward to upgraded production value. Do you
Hmm.
happen to know when Terrifier 2 would have came out?
Probably pretty recently, like probably last couple of years.
Oh, because I thought was the first one like an old like I was thinking this was like an
No,
older
these are all fairly
franchise.
new.
Are they?
These are,
Okay.
they're based on like some sort of uh, a short films or indie film, something like that. Like, but it was a character, like a side character that they made into like this their own like storyline, their own main character.
Okay. Man, AJ, next year Sony is just hammering everybody. November
Hmm.
8th, 2024, Venom 3.
Wow. Okay. I thought they were
Tom
done with Venom.
Nope, there's another one. Tom Hardy returns for this third installment of the Spider-Man adjacent anti-hero franchise, centering on a San Francisco reporter possessed by an alien symbiote. Writer Kelly Marcel steps in behind the camera for this one, whose plot we really don't know much about. You know, I'm wondering if that one will maybe get pushed to 2025, just because, like, even if they get it done, does Sony really want three of their superhero movies to come out in a single year, especially if the other ones don't review well?
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking too. Like Venom is going to be their highly touted movie of the year, like compared to the other two, and it's not anything to be excited about. Considering the second one wasn't that good. The third one, I think they're losing people with every movie they make. For Venom. So I don't know. It just seems like the sad thing is for Sony here, like it was their strongest character. Like they should have come out the gate swinging. Like they should have really knocked it out of the park with Venom, because now they're scraping the bottom of the barrel with Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter and whoever Morbius. Like it's just so bad. I mean, the one that they should have hit like a home run with, they didn't, and now it's just they're limping along.
And what really disappoints me is, there's been a lot of talk because this year, man, Marvel and DC like had some huge bombs in the superhero
Mm-hmm.
space, and like
Yeah,
most of the superhero movies now are struggling. So there's all this talk of, you know, superhero fatigue. If these three movies all come out next year and they all suck, it's not Marvel or DC's fault, but that is going to cause superhero fatigue.
yeah, it's gonna hurt Marvel and DC. What Sony does here is gonna hurt Marvel and DC.
I mean, I'm hoping that, the James Gunn reboot with Superman and all that will, energize people to see the new DC movies. But like at the same time, like how many just normal people off the street even know that DC is going to reboot with a new
Exactly.
universe? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And so, and
And
Marvel's
they still
gonna,
have Aquaman coming out soon. Like,
oh,
they still got to bomb a little bit more.
that's true. And like, I don't think, I heard that movie's not tracking well as far as like
Yeah.
prospective ticket sales, which doesn't surprise me at all. It's one of those things that like I'm sure we can have fun picking it apart on the show and doing a review of it, but at the same time I'm almost like my expectations are so low for that movie, man.
Yeah.
And I'll be shocked if that movie's even okay. That's where my expectations are at.
No, I agree. And like the thing is, they already pissed off so many people by keeping what's her name in it? Poopy Bed. What's her name?
Oh yeah, Amber Heard.
Amber Heard. Yeah. Like they pissed off so many people by keeping her in this movie. I don't know why they did it. I don't know if she has some sort of contractual thing that she has to be in the movie or they can't make it or something. I don't know, but it just seems like such a bad decision.
If they didn't do a reshoot where she poops the waterbed, I mean, they dropped the ball big time.
For sure. At least need to see bubbles coming out from behind her.
Well, AJ, we already on this list had one uh, surprising sequel to a 90s movie. Now we get another one. November 22nd, 2024, Gladiator 2. Now, this one is directed by Ridley Scott. So Ridley Scott returns to direct this sequel to the historical epic Gladiator. The story will reportedly revolve around a grown-up Lucius, played by Paul Mescal, who has become emperor, and will see the return of Connie Nielsen as Lucilla. Actually, I might be wrong. Maybe Gladiator came out like in 2000. I don't know. I was thinking late 90s though. At any case, it's an
Pretty long
an
ago.
old movie.
20,
Yeah.
20 something, yeah.
Yeah. Um, Gladiator is one of those movies I watched once back in the day, and I was like,
Yeah.
it's fine, but I never felt compelled to ever watch it again.
Back in the 90s and early 2000s, I feel like everything was a hit. Like if you put a little bit of effort, if you just put money into a movie, and call it a blockbuster, it was going to be a blockbuster hit, back then.
It did kind of feel that way, yeah.
Yeah, whereas these days, like, there's so many options. You have so many different forms of, like, getting content, YouTube, whatever. Like, people don't have to go out and watch your blockbuster, Like, they don't need to. Yeah. It's harder now. Except for Marvel movies, which were doing great, except till now.
I almost wonder with this trouble Marvel is having if it'll cause them to eventually increase the window between like theatrical release and when it hits Disney Plus, just to like try to get more people to watch in theaters. Because a lot of people are trained now, like, oh, I'll just wait for streaming,
Yeah.
And so with the struggling they've been having at the box office, it makes me wonder if they'll start doing that.
I don't know. I mean, it might work out like in their favor. Like people will sign up to watch the movie at least for that 1 month, and that's,
Right.
granted, you could have 4 or 5 people watch it for like $15, whereas you could in the theater have them all pay 15 each. But maybe that person sticks with the subscription for a while. Who knows? I think that's what they're banking on. That the person comes and stays. So I don't know. Let's see how it works out for them.
One of the big thing in the actor strike they were trying to get was for streamers to have to release all their numbers of like how many people are watching everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think basically just to make sure they're getting paid what they should for royalties and stuff. And I don't think they necessarily got that in the resolution.
Mm.
But I wish they would have, because I would be super curious. Well, even just like to see like subscriber spikes and stuff when like a new Marvel movie hits the platform, and see like, hey, does that make a big difference? Just
Yeah.
I would be very curious to see stats on that kind of stuff, and like what really like makes streamer numbers grow, and just see like how many rise and fall, and that kind of thing. I
Yeah,
think
all these price hikes justified, like because they
right.
keep, yeah, they keep saying that that's what it is, but we don't know. Maybe they're just doing it for the money.
One other thing is like these streamers hate churn, which is where people do like I do and be like, there's nothing on there right now. I'm going to quit and I'll let it stack up for several months. And then when there's
Yeah,
something on there I want, I'll go back. They don't like us doing that. But they keep raising prices to the point to where like now it's like, well, if you wanted to be subscribed to everything, you'd be paying so much money. Like,
for
what are the
sure.
options do you have if you're just a normal person to pick and choose?
Yeah, I've canceled all my subscriptions for now. Like I'm waiting till like, yeah, there needs to be a backlog of great content for me to like go back and stream. But right now, I feel like I've watched everything. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel on these streaming services, Netflix for sure. So like, yeah, I'm gonna wait for a while.
Yeah, I haven't had Netflix in several months, and I really haven't missed it. Um, I'm kind of curious. Around Christmas, that Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon movie comes out, which is kind of like sci-fi, like Star Warsian type movie.
Hmm.
I'm somewhat like interested in that, but I don't know if I'm interested enough to resubscribe. Maybe if
Right.
we decide we want to do it for the show, maybe I would consider it, but we'll see.
Mhm.
Um, November 27th, 2024. Wicked Part One, the legendary Broadway musical that tells the tale of the Wicked Witch of the West from a different perspective, is getting a two-part film adaptation. Director John M. Chu, who directed Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights, will take audiences to Oz, while Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande will play Elphaba and Glinda, respectively. I have no context for this at all. I know that Wicked is like a huge Broadway like success,
Hmm.
but I've never even seen the original Wizard of Oz.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I don't know, like again, like musicals and stuff, not really my jam. There's
Hmm.
certain exceptions, but like, so yeah, I just really have no. Uh, I mean, I probably won't watch this, but I understand why it exists. I've thought about watching Wizard of Oz just because it seems like one of those things I should have. It seems like one of those like super famous movies. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to sit down and watch it
It
sometime.
was inescapable for me as a kid. I like it was always on TV, or we had the movies, we had everything. Like we had the movie, but I watched it like so many times. I feel like I memorized it at some point.
I feel like it's something my parents must not have been into, or else I would have saw it, just by like osmosis as well.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, um, if it was, I'm sure it was on TV every year, and they just like weren't into it. So yeah, I never
yeah.
ended up watching it.
Mhm.
Um, well, AJ, this next one has a date, but based on some of the details here, I would say there's absolutely no way this movie is coming out next year. So it says December 13th, 2024, another Karate Kid movie, but it says directed by TBA, starring TBA. If they haven't picked out a director and cast, I don't see how this movie is coming out
Yeah,
next year. But it says the popular Netflix series Cobra Kai has helped keep the iconic 80s martial arts franchise alive and kicking in the popular consciousness. And in 2024, Sony will head back to the IP dojo with a remake of the original flick. Few additional details have been revealed, though it is confirmed that the movie will have no connection to the Netflix show. Man, Karate Kid, I know I saw that movie when I was a kid, but I have almost zero recollection of it. Like, I kind of remember, like, some of the
It was a
famous...
typical 80s, 90s movies, wherever it
Yeah,
was. Like, there was a girl who's dating a jerk, and he was like the weakling who learns
right,
karate and defeats the bully and gets the girl. And Mr. Miyagi is his mentor.
right. Yeah, I know all the basics, but I just, like... and Cobra Kai, I know a lot of people love it, but my thing was, like, why would I try Cobra Kai if I have no enthusiasm for, like, the original movies? You know what I
Right.
mean? So I
Yeah.
never even tried it. December 13th, 2024, another animated movie I won't see. The Lord of the Rings, The War for Rohirrim. Warner Brothers' latest film in the Lord of the Rings universe is the animated prequel that follows the exploits of Helm Hammerhand, the legendary King of Rohan, home of the horseman known as the Rohirrim, that played a big part in the Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. Brian Cox will lend his voice to the central character, who reigned 183 years before the events of the Two Towers, while the latter film's Miranda Otto reprises her role as Eowyn, who will serve as a framing device for the story. Man, I'm not big on fantasy stuff, and especially Lord of the Rings. I watched those movies somehow. I was bored to tears the whole time,
Yeah.
and I know people love it. Sorry, but I don't care.
Yeah, I never got into the Lord of the Rings either, man. I watched them all, but I just didn't get the hype. Like, I don't
Same,
know. Yeah.
same. I could not get into them. I was bored. Man, people talk about superhero fatigue. I'm crossing my fingers that live action Disney remake fatigue is going to set in soon.
Yeah.
Uh, because December 20th, 2024, Mufasa, The Lion King. The live action Lion King, which was 100% computer generated and not actually live action, is getting a prequel that will explore the backstory of Simba's father, Mufasa. James Earl Jones, who voiced Mufasa in the original Lion King and the remake, will not voice this younger version of Mufasa, and instead Aaron Pierre will play the character. Kevin Harrison Jr. will play Scar, who goes by Taka when the events of the film take place. Man, I could not care less about this. Like, I'm trying to, like, I don't know. They keep making these live action Disney movies, and I know some of them have done well, but
Yeah.
I think I might have actually saw like the Jungle Book one that was made like this, and I didn't like that either. So like,
Okay.
I could not care less.
Yeah, I'm not down for it.
Another sequel of a franchise that I know a lot of people are like, but I don't care about. December 20th, 2024, Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
the Sonic the Hedgehog film franchise is speeding right along in a third installment that will presumably bring back Ben Schwartz as Sonic, Colleen O'Shaughnessy as Tails, and Idris Elba as Knuckles. Jim Carrey, who played the villainous Dr. Robotnik in the first two movies, might sit this one out, as he's been talking about retiring from acting. But there will be at least one foe giving Sonic a run for his money, as Sonic 2 teased a new villain, Shadow the Hedgehog, in its post-credits scene. AJ, are you excited for Sonic the Hedgehog 3?
Not excited, but I'll watch if my nephews want to.
Yeah, I know Lester has watched those because they were like into them. So,
Yeah.
um, a little Christmas horror movie, December 25th, 2024, Nosferatu, directed by Robert Eggers. Robert Eggers, who directed The Witch, The Lighthouse, and the action epic The Northman, um, has been working for years on a remake of the classic 1922 vampire film of the same name. It looks to follow a similar plot centering on a young woman played by Lily Rose Depp and the vampire played by Bill Skarsgård, who is infatuated with her. um, I've heard of Nosferatu. I have really no context to what the story is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people say that Robert Eggers is a good director, but I've actually never seen any of his other movies, so I can't really comment. I've kind of been interested in watching The Witch and The Northman at times, but I never pulled the trigger and actually watched them. I don't know if you've watched any of those.
I watched The Witch. It was that movie, right?
Right. How was
Yeah,
that?
it was all right.
That was
It
okay.
wasn't. I don't know. It was okay.
Just okay. This article also says to be determined about Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, but I think they've actually said that that's not coming out next year. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that'll be out in 2024. But hey, whenever it comes out, I'll be excited to see it.
Yeah.
So AJ, that's the end of their list. I assume there's things on that they did not include on this list, and probably things that'll get pushed into 2025 that were on this list. But what sticks out to you as far as like what you're excited for?
The Beetlejuice remake seems like it might be interesting. Looking forward to that. I can say what I'm not excited for. And that's the Sony movies.
Oh God, yeah, man. You know, here's the thing that kind of sucks about the Sony movies is like, let's say they turn things around and these movies come out and they're actually very good. You still have this like start of a bunch of bad movies, so it's
exactly.
it would hard to get excited about their universe just because there's so much bad already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
Like they need Sony. They need Marvel to like hold their hand like they did with Spider-Man. Like do this right, because I just don't think Sony has it in them to like be able to make a superhero movie.
Well, you know what's weird is so they made that deal with Marvel to where, you know, the Tom Holland Spider-Man can be in those movies. And I don't know all the details of the contract, but I don't think it makes it impossible for them to, you know, cast another Spider-Man or even maybe even use Tom Holland like in these movies. They haven't, and I'm glad that they haven't.
Yeah.
But I don't think, you know, it's necessarily stated that they can't. But yeah, man, my hope is that one day Sony will just sell Spider-Man to Marvel and we'll be done with this nonsense.
Just let it go.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully they stop making any money off of these and they just learn, like, we can't do it. Give it to the guys who can, you know.
But I think my most anticipated on this list is probably the Mad Max Furiosa movie.
Okay.
But also I'm very interested in Dune Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually pretty interested that, well, I definitely want to see a trailer for the Ballerina. But I'm kind of interested in that just because it's set in that John Wick universe. So there's a few movies on this list that I'm excited for. A whole lot that I'm not, but I was like going over this list and being like, okay, at least there's a few. And Deadpool 3. Definitely want to see Deadpool 3.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad there's a mix and that it's not. You know, for once, it's not just all like superhero movies we're excited for because it's kind of overall, it looks like a weak year for superhero movies. So I'm glad we're getting things like Mad Max and Dune to kind of like throw some different flavors in there.
Yeah.
But AJ, I think that'll do it. We went over an hour talking about the movies. But is there anything you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, I'm good, man.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Leave us a comment down below. Tell us what movies you're excited for in 2024, and also what movies you dread watching maybe that coming out. But subscribe both to the YouTube channel and in audio form on your podcast catcher of choice. Thumbs up, positive reviews. You can follow me on Twitter/X at Zach Jones Live. That's ZachJonesLive. And that'll do it for all of our shenanigans and poppycock this week. Please, please, please tune in again next week. Bye, guys.
Take care.